Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us syndicated on television. That's abundant television found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can find us on some charter communication stations as well. And we're working on a number of things right here in South Carolina. Can't wait to tell you about those as well. Still, the social media sites, you got your Facebook, got X, got all those things that are happening right now. So watch us anytime you want to and continue sending emails. It thrills me. I love receiving emails from you. Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. I have a long time. This guy has a standing anytime he wants to be on the show, Alan Mendenhall. All he's got to do is say, Donna, I'm ready. And I make room for you, Alan. Thanks so much for being on the show with me today. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Donna. It's always an honor to be on the show, and I'm so happy that you are now expanding to audiences in South Carolina, which is where I went to college at Furman University. So right down the road from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so much fun. And 20 years of doing this, it's been fun. It's just not felt like 20 years.
20 years of doing it, and I've been on the show for almost 10 of those.
About half of it.
Yeah, about half.
That's why it's a success, because you're on. Definitely. Okay, before we get started, I just got to ask you what your thoughts are. You know what I'm going to say, Trump and Elon. Okay, are they really in a tiff? Do you think they really are?
I have no idea. I really have no idea. I don't know. It sure seems real. It seems real to me, but there could be some strategic grandstanding going on both sides for different reasons. But, you know, obviously they are litigating, as it were, in social media.
But it doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah, well, I think that's a social media feud is something like professional wrestling. Like, can you actually get hurt in professional wrestling? Yeah. Right. But it's also a lot of pageantry and choreography. And I think there's an element of that as well.
Yeah, but think about this. Okay, Trump has wanted the Epstein files open for a while. I mean, you know, he really has. I mean, couldn't you see him in the back room somewhere with Elon going, hey, I got a way we can get them open. Why don't you say, I'm in it?
Now, I had not thought of that. My mind had not gone there, but that would be absolutely brilliant. If it's the left blocking the release of the Epstein files and the left finds out that there's any possibility that Trump might, they're going to release them. So that would be absolutely brilliant.
I mean, think about it. Okay, because I think of Trump. My dad is a lot like Trump. So I know how my dad thought. I mean, it's like they're both massive genius chess players. You know, and something that looks like it's not going to happen, they'll find a creative way to make it happen. Yeah. And I don't know, it seems like a chess move to me. It just doesn't feel, and Trump doesn't care. He's been put in jail anyway. I mean, you know, what else? I mean, nothing. He's been shot at twice that we know of. So probably more than that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, that would be next level brilliance. And my mind hasn't even gone there, but it seems plausible now that you mention it. I just haven't thought of that.
It just feels staged to me.
There's definitely some staged element of the entire feud. As I say, you know, it's like professional wrestling. You've got to have some pageantry and some choreography and some play because, you know, both these guys are pretty media savvy. They know how to generate followers and to play to the crowds.
Yeah. How many times was Ric Flair the good guy? Then he was the bad guy. Then he was the good guy. I mean, they all do that.
Yeah. Oh, remember Hulk Hogan when he was NWO and they did the Wolfpack thing? And he was the bad guy.
Okay, you get what I'm saying then. That's it. So, but anyway, time's going to play out, and I think it's about the Epstein files because that was the first thing out of, Elon's mouth. That was the first thing out.
Yeah, it was one of the first blows, one of the first Twitter blows, although I believe he has withdrawn or deleted that tweet.
Is he?
I think
Yeah,
so.
but all you got to do is get the word out.
Yeah, I mean,
You know this from being an attorney. Okay, so all the attorney's got to do is just put reasonable, because the judge is going to go, no, we're going to mark that out. You didn't hear that. Too late. I've done heard it. I'm a juror and I'm sitting in the box. I can't get it out of my mind.
yeah, that's very true. Like when there's hearsay introduced in a trial, it's like, nope, you can't rely on that.
That's hearsay.
I'm a jury. I'm a juror. I already heard it. Like I can't erase it from my mind.
That's true. Well, there are more things. You've written an article, and I love this article. And so let's talk about this just a bit. And so you did this 1819. You've been writing articles for them for quite a while as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I started a weekly column for 1819 back in November 2024, and here we are in June 2025, and I'm still doing them. They're very fun. They're not very difficult to do because, they're in the range of 600 to 1,000 words, and I can write that pretty quickly. But coming up with topics week in and week out can be difficult. So sometimes I'll write about the drama around the house, whether it was my son breaking a window or the Braves disappointing us on television or something like that. So every now and then I'll do family-based pieces, but then I write a lot of policy pieces as well. And this weekend's, the one you're referring to, or I guess last weekend's, was a policy piece.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Policies, I mean, that makes the world go around.
Yeah, well, so the Alabama legislature enacted a measure last year that was branded as an anti-DEI measure. But what it did is it barred the deployment of taxpayer dollars. So taxpayer dollars is public money to funding DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion programming or bureaucracies in public universities. Now, that means you can't use taxpayer money, other people's money, to fund these controversial things. But if somebody wants to give a private donation to fund any one of those things, that's fine. It's not like the legislature said, universities, you cannot hold any DEI stuff on your campus. They just said, oh, you can hold stuff like that on your campus. You just can't use public money if you want to do it. Public money can't fund it. So I actually argue that this statute protects academic freedom because you see a lot of outrage from professors who are saying, this is an infringement upon academic freedom. It limits what I can teach. It limits what I can do. But actually, I think it's the opposite. I think this statute protects the academic freedom of marginalized conservative students on campus who are afraid of professors assigning them bad grades if they take a particular conservative position, or marginalized faculty who are beholden to the whims of left-wing faculty who might sabotage tenure and promotion, who might not let these professors rise up the ranks if they express anything that is conservative. So the bill actually prohibits not just public universities, but also state entities like local education boards from compelling students, faculties, or staff to disclose their views on controversial ideological matters. It also prohibits these indoctrination sessions, which are like these DEI training sessions that that force faculty to accept a particular viewpoint with which they disagree. So in the article, I talk about how there are these zealots who always are attempting to dragoon their colleagues and other students into intellectual genuflection before their ideological altar. They're trying to force people to conform to their viewpoints. And what's so ironic is that these viewpoints are actually race-based in a way that harkens back to the 1950s and 1960s. It's just targeted at different racial groups. But if you look at the statute on its face and you say, oh, this statute prohibits the use of public funds to teach that one race is supreme over another, or that we should discriminate against people on the basis of their race, or that certain people are inherently racist because they were born a certain color, or that because somebody was born a certain color, they are responsible for the historical transgressions of their ancestors. These are all very racist things on their face. And so it's shocking that anyone could read that and object to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is exactly what's happening within the left-wing faculty ranks. They have completely abandoned principles and embraced sheer ideological raw politics. And it's a shame.
It is. And let me ask you another thing, and this has to do with Darwin's theory. So Darwin actually said that a black man's skull was smaller. Thus, he thought white people were smarter than black people. So why are they not erasing everything from Darwin's theory? Because that's pretty darn racist right there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer of why Darwin's being eliminated, other than he is, his theories have obviously many offshoots and branches since he wrote, but he's writing in the area of science, and a lot of this stuff is taking place in the area of the humanities, and sometimes there's a disconnect. But you're right. Why not cancel Marx, for example? Because Marx was very racist by our standards, absolutely,
yeah.
And despised immigrants and things like that. And you would think by the left standards he would be off the table. And in fact, I think by some leftists he probably is off the table. They might teach his economic theories, but not some of those sort of racial views he held. But even his economic theories, you say, wow, gosh, communism and socialism killed somewhere in the range of 100 million people in the 20th century. That's astounding, not just by direct, assassination or killing, but by starvation and other factors that contributed to death. So, it's just horrifying how the left embraces these pernicious doctrines and tries to cry foul and play victim when and actually on its face goes to counteract racist views.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I just don't get it. I like for things to be logical. And I like for, okay, so if you agree with a particular theory, I like to carry that whole thing through. And if you're going to erase one person's theory because it doesn't go along with your agenda, well then, go on ahead and erase the rest of them. And all the things that are happening in California right now, all the riots, Maxine Waters, to me, is the ultimate narcissist. Okay, she can't breathe unless she's creating a division somewhere. So did you see the article where the police officer just slams the door in her face? I mean, she comes in, she's trying to start something, and he just slams the door in her face.
Well, it is treating her with the same degree of respect that she treated him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's interesting, and this goes for the Democratic representatives who were protesting outside the Department of Education. I don't know what that was, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. All the time is sort of difficult for me to manage these days. I can't tell if what was a month and what was 2 months ago. But
so much of it.
Well, I know. But when you do not have your right to freedom of speech does not extend to the commission of crimes. Committing a crime is not a valid form of expression. It is illegal to commit a crime. So if you commit a crime, if I go light somebody's vehicle on fire where it's parked, yes, that is a form of expression. Absolutely. Is it a form of expression that is protected speech? No, it is a crime. So, people just can't seem to draw these distinctions and draw these lines anymore. And you see all these activities that go on under the banner of free speech, which are not, in fact, free speech. Of course, the First Amendment was designed to limit the powers of the federal government over certain things like speech and assembly and all these different areas. But it's been incorporated in many ways against the states, and we now do enjoy wonderful free speech protections, but we also need to realize what speech is and what it isn't, and what forms of expression go too far and are unprotected. It seems as though the default for many of these protesters is that our speech is protected when we are, setting up tent in campus and interfering with people's ability to go to and from class, yelling horrible things to Jewish students, harassing them. This is not free speech. This is something else, some other species of crime.
And just downright harassment. Just because people don't think your way, but there's a proverb, and I'm trying to remember which one it is, and the proverb in the Bible where it says, and I'll just paraphrase it, Donna's terminology. Okay, even a stupid person, even a moron, is going to appear wise when they keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
And really, even a really stupid person can appear smart when they just don't say anything. Yes,
that is true. And I'm trying to think of the Twain quote. There's like a Mark. What is the Twain quote? Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. I think that one. I think that's
another good one. That's a tribute to Mark Twain.
Yeah, the Proverbs is, what is it? Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent. Something like that. Even if So yeah, that's it. There's a lot to that. In higher education, you learn that you cannot develop expertise in every field. And so you have to learn at least some degree of humility. I know it seems hard to believe because we don't see very many people in higher education exercising that degree of humility. But I think the people who are the smartest in higher ed are the ones who know their limitations and are able to say, okay, I can't speak with authority on this subject matter or that subject matter, so I will say, I don't know, or defer to somebody else who does have expertise. But what we're teaching students these days too often, because professors are so ideological, they try to enlist students into their political programs. And they're not teaching students to be humble questioners, following lines of inquiry wherever they may lead. They need to have numbers behind them. And so they try to inculcate beliefs and indoctrinate so that they can have more numbers on their side. And then these students who are, 18, 19 years old, they're not old enough to know anything really. And, you're supposed to, before you're an activist, know a lot of stuff. So you have
to know what you're fighting for.
Yeah, you know why you're being an activist. And these people are just being activists because they think activism in itself is the end. Whereas activism is only a means to achieving an end. They think that activism is in itself an intellectual activity. So they do all this activism thinking that, by being activists, I think I am being smart. I am being intelligent. And that's just not the case.
Who makes being an activist a career move? Because there are a lot of people who are actually doing that. It's like it's turned into a career.
Well, so I as you know, I am working for the Heritage Foundation now, and we have paid protesters outside our building all the time. In fact, they were there all weekend, and people could not get into the building through the front door because all these protesters were blocking the way. Now, fortunately, the rain put a little bit of damper on them. So they were standing out there somewhat solemn as they got wet. And it was also the weekend, so people weren't going to the office. But they remained there this morning, and we had a little notification to be careful. The protesters are out there. Now, I'm sitting here working remote this week, so I didn't have to worry about any of this. But you can bet all these protesters were paid protesters. Now, who's paying them? Obviously, George Soros has a large paid protest network, but who else? I don't know. I don't know who pays these people, but it would be really interesting to find out. And it's also interesting that conservatives don't really do this stuff. because we have values and we believe in standards and we believe in politeness and we believe in not infringing upon other people's rights, we don't just go and disrupt all these different businesses. Like we just don't do things that way. Now, in the corporate America, we might do it by perfectly legitimate and legal means. Like we might buy shares of a publicly traded company and try to engage that company to drop, for example, divisive DEI policies or expressly race-based practices that might expose that company to liability. Yeah, that's one thing we might do as conservatives, but we're not going to go stand outside of, I don't know, the Brookings Institution and prevent people from going inside. It's just not what we do.
We're not going to go burn down buildings, right?
We're not going to go live.
The whole thing about the Ferguson thing is you were watching people going in. They're breaking in stores, coming out with television sets and tennis shoes for some reason. It's either TV sets or it's tennis shoes.
Yeah, and guess which communities that activity harmed the most? Their communities, their neighbors, their friends, the ethnic minorities. That was not about some sort of racial justice. That was just about chaos.
Okay, there are some leadership roles though. Okay, so Brant Ayers is the owner of the Anniston Star newspaper. You can't, and I know him. I did a lot of business with him, and when I was in the cell phone business, he was always buying phones and whatever. He was always tearing his up or losing them. But this is what he did. This is back in the 1980s. I used to own a Snelling franchise. It's kind of like a headhunter where I would help people find corporate government jobs, that kind of thing. Nurses, doctors, lawyers, that sort of thing. So it ticked me off because I was highly active in the Chamber of Commerce, Calhoun County Chamber of Commerce. And we were there to build up the community, not drag it down. Guess what he put on the front page of one of his newspapers? This is back in the 1980s. It blows my mind. I'm going to see if I can find it somewhere and send it to you. Anniston, Alabama, per capita has the highest murder rate in the United States. Okay, that's really good because we're trying to get industry to come in, and you want to put that on the front page of the newspaper. You didn't try to hide it. I mean, it was just like, so what are you trying to do? You're afraid another newspaper is going to come in. And so my question to him was, why did you do this? I mean, we're trying to bring industry in, not get rid of it. And that was during the time when also Fort McClellan, they were closing Fort McClellan. So that was already going to turn into a ghost town because of that. So we're thinking ahead. We're thinking of revitalization. What can we do with Fort McClellan going away? Because it was the biggest employer we had at that time.
Yeah.
And so then he's a leader of the industry. He's a leader. He's in like every club in Calhoun County. And that's on his front page.
Yeah, that's interesting. Was he trying to take a tough on crime position and say, look, we need to clean this up? Or was he just...
I don't know what he was doing. No, because, okay, he has a nickname of Spanky. You want to know why he has a nickname?
I'm afraid to ask.
Because he had some employees who sued him for spanking them.
That's why I was afraid to ask. That's kind of what I was thinking it might be.
Yeah. So anyway, I made sure the door was open when I went to his office. Okay, wow. We didn't have a closed door session at all. But anyway, I just thought, because sometimes your leadership, let's take California, for instance. I mean, it's like some of these people want their towns to be torn down. Okay, who's going to want to go to Ferguson and open a business? I mean, if they did this campaign like, let's bring industry in, guess what? It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because everybody, when you say Ferguson, what's the first thing you think of?
They're going to think of all those riots. Yeah.
Some tactics just don't work.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
But there are ways that you can do things and you can say things. You can get a point across. I mean, without being a complete imbecile. Okay, so I'm a Christian, and so I had this. I had a business in a mall, and the guy who had the ice cream shop was a Muslim. And you know what? We never argued. We never fought. We never did anything like that. But I think we gained each other's respect. And let me tell you how we did it. Okay, now I'm going to tell you whether Christians don't do it, but Muslims will do their prayer time. I mean, they got it going on. They pray to Mecca how many times a day? 4 or 5 times a day, whatever. So we both had supply rooms in the back. Okay, so I had a customer who came in, needed something, so I needed to go to the supply room where you could hear him praying to Allah. So I don't believe in that. I think he's wrong, but I gently opened the door and I gently closed it because I don't know what was wrong with the doors. They would slam and make the awfulest noise. So I did that. Well, I had a customer who said, "Why didn't you just slam the door?" And I said, "Well, one thing, I just don't do that." And I said, if the guy ever thought about being a Christian, he's never going to come to me and ask me any questions about Christianity if I'm being completely rude to him. But the problem is we have people who are in government capacity who don't know how to do things the right way. And I'm talking about the last administration. I'm not talking about Trump. Trump could kind of tone it down some, but what I'm talking about is Trump talks with authority. This is the way I look at it. He talks with authority. But this mealy-mouthed, where we don't want to hurt somebody who's confused about their gender, that kind of stuff. If that's your priority, I mean, I think it's a wrong priority.
Well, and if you think about the different harm being caused against other communities because of trans activism, for example, female athletics and girls sports, and you've got men competing in girls sports, and somehow in that scenario, you have male athletes, people with male anatomy and male biology becoming the victim as they compete, like as they win all these things, and somehow they're still they're victim. Like, it doesn't make any sense. These poor female athletes having to deal with that. It's unreal. And I think that this is like French Revolution kind of stuff where people just dismiss common sense completely.
It's coming nutty. And another thing is these guys are even dressing up like women and winning beauty contests. Okay, I would hate to be a woman and I'm in a beauty contest and the dude wins over me. I feel like, come on.
Well,
and the girls are told to do this. I guess they'll just lavish all over the guy like, "I'm so glad you won, congratulations." No way would I be doing that. I would be the one that would go, "I'm out of here."
I think we need to start using sort of satire as a way to address these kinds of issues, because we've been trying to invoke common sense like I just did and say that's ridiculous. But maybe we just need satire. Like, I don't know, the way Family Guy or South Park or somebody would make fun of things. Maybe the Babylon Bee does a great job with this kind of stuff. Maybe we just need more satire to expose how absurd some of these things really are.
Okay, I've got a daughter, and she's been in. Let's pretend I have a son, no daughters, but let's pretend I have a daughter, and I've had her. She's grown up in beauty contests. Phil has a daughter who has. Kim, his daughter was in like Miss America contest. So we've paid all this money, their poise, whatever you do for a kid to be in a beauty contest, and a dude wins. Now, okay, you have to teach sportsmanship, because remember this, okay, like playing baseball or other basketball, whatever you do, you're told sportsmanship is you got to congratulate the other team when they win. I mean, but how can I congratulate a dude when it's in a woman's beauty contest?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you know that the judges are only granting that victory because they are trying to make some kind of political statement. I put it this way: men are not beautiful.
Sorry. Handsome dudes, but not beautiful dudes, not to win a beauty contest. Okay, so we're going to have to go to a break in just a minute, but let me mention this to you. So HGTV is totally liberal. I mean, every show they have is just, and I used to love to watch it, but they had a contest going on. It was a cooking contest where you could send a video, like a 60-second video, and it's possible you could do the show. And I was actually thinking about doing it until I received the application. And it was, this caught me. I'm thinking I could be the best chef in the world and not win this, because they want someone who's confused about their gender to win it.
Oh, yeah.
You could go from the questionnaire. It was like, let's see, man, woman, male, female, or whatever. And then it was some diversity type. And I just told Phyllis to forget it. I'm not going to waste the time it's going to take to do that.
Yeah, and how many people allege that they have gender dysphoria or some other trans type condition just because that's how you get on TV and that's how you become famous and that's how you make money? That's why a lot of people are doing it, I'm sure.
I think so too. Yeah, and also every boy I went to high school with, I'm pretty sure, would have said, "I think I'm a girl today," just so they could have went into my locker room. I'm sure of it. They would have done that, I'm sure. Let's go into a commercial break. We're going to be right back. Let's talk Alabama politics when we come back.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thanks so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. on Central Time. We get to ride home with you in the afternoon. Alan, I just asked Phil, would he, going to high school, would he have pretended to be a female or confused about his gender so he could go into the women's locker room? It's no, my dad would have killed me. That's the quick answer to that one. Did he think about it? Probably, but he wouldn't have done it. So anyway, there we go. Wow, you got a lot of stuff going on in Alabama right now. The governor's race is. Are there going to be anybody competing against Tuberville?
I don't think anybody can. I don't think there's a single person that can challenge Tuberville. So I'm pretty sure he will be our next governor, and I think he'll be a good one. The race to watch, well, there are a few races to watch, but one big one is the Attorney General race, because you have Jay Mitchell, who was a sitting Alabama Supreme Court justice who had to resign his seat on the court in order to run. Now, that's a big deal. Think about this. If you're a judge or justice in this state for over 10 years, you get 75% salary for life when you retire. So this is giving up a lot to run. And now Catherine Robertson will be running, and she's a very close advisor to Steve Marshall. So this is going to turn out to be a big race. And Catherine Robertson has some outside money, big outside money coming her way. So it's going to be a very interesting race to see. Of course, you've got Secretary of State, and that's coming up. You've got a lot of fun races to watch. The Lieutenant Governor race as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But let's talk about the governor's race just for a moment. Okay, do you think the deep state will let this happen? Deep state is in Alabama just like it is everywhere else.
I think at this point, Tuberville has the populist backing. I think the so-called deep state tried to stop Roy Moore from winning and the Chief Justice race, and they did in the governor's race and then in the U.S. Senate race, but not in the the 2012 race where he became I guess the investiture was January 2013, and when he became Chief Justice. Tom Parker also had that kind of populist momentum but Tom Parker also had a lot of backing from different types of establishment. Both Parker and Roy Moore both had the trial lawyers behind them, which is sort of interesting for conservatives to have the trial lawyers backing them. But at any rate, I don't think there's any way to derail Tuberville at this point. I think he's very close to Alpha. I think he's very close to Donald Trump. And being very close to Donald Trump in the state of Alabama is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. It is. So what Democrat, is there a Democrat that could actually be? I thought about Walt from Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, no Democrat has a chance at that office, not even a shot. I think Will Ainsworth probably ran poll after poll after poll before deciding he wasn't going to run. But the fact that he decided not to run was an indicator that nobody, he was the only person that could have given Tuberville a run for his money. And the fact that he backed out suggests that there's just nobody else. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, there's just no way.
Mm-hmm. Is Tuberville going to have the same issues though that Trump did? Because I mean, I'm trying to shoot at Trump twice. I'm telling, there's a deep state in Alabama
There
too.
is a deep state in Alabama. I've seen it myself when I testified in the state house on ESG. I saw what happens to people and what they tried to do to me. So I know it's out there. I just think that Tuberville is too big of a force to be reckoned with. What I suspect you'll see is the establishment realizing that, or whatever, these powers that be realizing that, and trying now to strategize their way into his circles. How can we get in? I've already seen photos of people meeting with him in his office in DC that I thought, ooh, if I were advising Tuberville, I would tell him I would not have put that picture on social media, and I would have told him, watch out for that person. That person's duplicitous. I'm not going to name names, but I saw him saying, so-and-so stopped by to visit today, and he posted the photo, which is what politicians do. It's great. But I just hope he's discerning and careful and surrounds himself with people he can trust, because people know he's going to be stepping into power, and they will do anything they can to try to mislead him and to try to get what they want out of that arrangement.
Yeah, if you're in the deep state right now, I would think that you would be thinking about how to get into his cabinet right now. If you think, well, he's going to win it, he's going to win. How can we inch people into that cabinet?
100%. That is exactly what's going on.
Now, the only thing I disagreed with, I've disagreed with Tuberville on a few things, but not everything. For the most part, he's good. But I'm just saying, he tried to make a point one time. The woman judge came, I tried to wipe her name out of my mind. Okay, she said that they asked her if she knew the difference between a man or a woman, and she said she was not a scientist, so therefore she didn't.
Yeah, that was Justice Jackson.
Yeah, her. Oh, okay. He put on Facebook, on his Facebook page, that he was going to meet with her. In other words, he wanted to do the diplomatic thing and meet with her. And I don't know, I just took it the wrong way. I just was like, if this woman doesn't know the difference between a man or a woman, she's not fit to be a judge. I wouldn't waste my time with her. I mean, I understand his policy there. He's trying to do the diplomatic thing, but I wouldn't have done that. He's going to have some good advisors. Looks like we've lost Alan. Alan Mendenhall, who's with Heritage Foundation. Yeah, you went blank on me there just for a minute.
Oh, yeah, I could tell you froze, and then I was sitting here in purgatory for a minute there. But I've been readmitted to heaven, so I got thrown out and put back in. Yeah, those confirmation hearings are kind of like that. That all these senators they don't really get into too in-depth of discussions, even when you meet. I mean, how in-depth can you get into somebody's jurisprudence during a 15-minute meeting? You say, well, are you originalist? Are you this? It's after once the small talk's gone, there's only, a few minutes to talk about real serious things. And, a lot of it is just, as with much of politics, just checking boxes, saying you did this. They're formalities that have to be recognized, and honestly a lot of them waste time.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. So let's talk then about the Senate race in Alabama.
Yeah, I think right now you've got Steve Marshall as the clear front runner, and I unless we have some surprise candidates, I see him being our next senator. Now, there's a lot of talk about Bruce Pearl running. And as an Auburn basketball fan, I hope that does not happen. Not because I don't think Bruce Pearl would be good at what he does in the Senate, but because I like how good he is in the basketball team.
Don't rock the boat, Bruce. Just don't rock the boat.
Well, and the other thing is I think Steve Marshall would do a great job. I trust Steve. I know Steve. I think he would be an excellent senator. And I'm not sure there would be much of a difference between a voting record, but I don't know what Bruce Pearl's positions are on everything. I know he's good on some things, but I don't know the whole spectrum of beliefs he holds. So there's that too. And, there is a little bit of a limit that I can tolerate to the celebrity politician thing. I didn't think that Trump should have intervened in the Dr. Oz primary because Dr. Oz lost that general election. And I think the results would have turned out differently had Dr. Oz not been the candidate. So it's not always good to just have a celebrity be your person. A lot of people don't like celebrities.
For the most part, I don't.
I know.
I mean,
I tried to tell that to my colleagues in academia when I was in academia. They'd say, well, if we only did this and we did this, and I said, no, wait. Hold on. First, you have to realize that most people out there hate people like you. They don't like you. So so you can't just go in and presume that you're going to lecture to a bunch of people and they're going to start changing their minds. Like they already don't want to listen to you because they don't like your type. So you need to rethink your strategy from the get-go.
I mean, I'm not going to buy a face cream just because J-Lo tells me that I like it.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I've had enough of that, so I think most people, and I think this is why Trump was elected president of the United States. People are tired of the fluff. Yeah. They want somebody who's just going to be basic and give you the core beliefs and just go by those core beliefs.
Well, and most people are a lot smarter than the elites, for lack of a better term, give them credit for. Mm-hmm. People can see through the BS. That was the thing with Waltz. Everyone could see through him. Just because he shows up on the couch with a hoodie playing a video game doesn't mean he's going to appeal to some teenage boy. It's just crazy stuff. Just because he puts on camo and goes out and carries a rifle doesn't mean he's going to all of a sudden appeal to hunters. It was just silliness. It was so inauthentic. And of course,
first of all, we've seen enough of this. If somebody wants to have a different lifestyle than I do, go for it. I really don't care. But I don't want to have to go hold the sign. And I just, I'm to each their own, do whatever. I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And, and I do things that are wrong, nothing like that. But what I'm talking about is no one on earth is perfect. No one walking on this earth is perfect. But there are core beliefs, and I just can't go against those.
Yeah, sure. And one thing I think that Trump did very well was remain authentic. When he went into that McDonald's and when he got behind the wheel of the garbage truck, he was in a shirt and tie, but he was doing the working man stuff. He had what he.
I think
the garbage vest. And it was a signal. It was a signal that I am who I am. I'm not trying to be somebody else, but I also represent you and I stand for you and I hear you and I listen to you. It's a very different message from sort of the pretentious, condescending, oh, I'm one of you. I am one of you. It was a signal that said, look, I know I'm not from your world, but I stand for what you believe in. And that's a very different message.
Oh, yeah. And when he didn't win the election, when it was robbed from him, I know it was. And so he was in New York at the police department, one of the police departments. And I'm telling you, those cops loved him. They were all over. As a matter of fact, it was in a meeting. It's kind of like this little, cameras were there. And so this one cop just looked at him and said, we don't like our mayor here. Why don't you run for mayor of New York City? And they just genuinely love him. And the people I know who have met Trump went into the White House with what they thought he was like. And when they came back, it was like, God, it was nothing like I thought he was.
Yeah. And he knows how to go to the right things. He goes to the Alabama football games. He goes to Ultimate Fighting. He goes to boxing. He tries to make manliness acceptable again because, this notion of toxic masculinity has bled into what would be just regular old manly things. Yes, obviously, abuse and harassment and all these things are bad. But when you start equating basic masculinity with all these bad things and blurring all these lines and you make it negative to just be a man, of course men aren't going to respond to that well. That just doesn't make sense.
But we need to raise our kids a particular way. Like when my son was growing up, and you remember the show that came on, Married with Children?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I hated that show. The dad of the family was so stupid in that.
Yeah,
And it's like the
that's
kids
fair.
were much smarter. The parents were dumb. And so the kids were kind of ruling the roost. Well, my son wanted to watch it. And I said, you're not watching that trash. And he said, everybody else watches it. And I said, you're not going to watch it. I don't like it. I've seen it. And I don't like
the dumb
the way
dad has become a trope. You're right. The dumb dad has become a trope. Now I can think of, shows that were much different, like Andy Griffith, or even more contemporary shows like Carl Lewis, the police officer in Family Matters, was a great male head of house. They also gave him a little bit of a ditzy role, though, where he was not, sometimes he would play kind of the clueless guy, but he was still, masculine in a positive way, not like Peter Griffin from Family Guy or Homer Simpson, who are just morons, like those are just morons. And, Bill Cosby played a good dad when he was on television. He played a good role. It's a shame that his life post sitcom has been such a terrible thing, because he was such a good actor, and his personal life has undermined all the good things he really did. But you're right. We need to see shows where there are good, positive role models. And too often, sometimes, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, conservative media or filmmaking or television making or whatever just isn't quite the same quality. We'll say it's sea level in terms of things, and it becomes mawkish and overly sentimental and somewhat silly, where you could see if you just didn't buy into all this, you would think this was just a silly thing to watch, and you easy to just dismiss it. But, a figure like Russell Crowe in Master and Commander, or something like that, where you've got a good, moral, virtuous leader who has problems, because we all do, but overcomes them and leads through trials. I mean, that's the type of figure we need to see more of. And I think people will find that stuff appealing. I don't know. Remember they made the Hollywood movie on Noah? I'd say it was probably a decade ago now. And he was some like freak environmentalist that was like trying to conserve trees and doing it. It's just so silly.
And that's what they've been after for a long time. So I taught my son to, respect women. Yeah. And so I mentioned this on a show one day. Then I received an email from someone who asked if I was okay with being ruled around the house by my husband. And I said, what? So I sent her a message back. What do you mean I'm being ruled around the house by my husband? The husband needs to be the head of the house as far as I'm concerned. I really believe that. I know it sounds really old fashioned and it sounds whatever, but the guy needs to be the head.
Well, it's a reciprocal relationship because the woman also has her roles that are authoritative in that sphere, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like they're complementary roles is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Right.
There are things that a man does well that a woman may not do as well. And there are things that a woman does well that a man may not do as well. I mean, when you look at just sheer physical strength, it means that a man can go lift that fence up and fix it a lot easier than the woman can.
Can't.
Just, he can hold the post, the wooden post up with his left arm and hammer with the right. And it might take two females to do that. I mean, it's just basic science. I mean, it's just basic reality. But there are other things that I think there's truly a maternal instinct. I think there are things that mothers feel that men can experience. And, that's not bad or wrong or whatever. It's just biology. And
I got to say this about cooking. Now, I don't want anybody in the kitchen but me. I even boot my mother in the kitchen.
Me either.
It's my kitchen now. However, when it comes to the outside grill, I can't do it. Phil is the cookout king.
I don't want anybody in my kitchen because I don't want them tasting what I try to create because I can't cook. If they want to get in my kitchen to actually cook, they can have at it. If that's what you mean, anybody is welcome. Anybody watching the show can come in my kitchen and use it all they want and cook for it because I can't. But I do grill out. That's the one thing I can do is grill.
Now, why is that? Why is it guys can grill out better than women can?
All I know is you just throw meat on the fire. It seems somewhat primitive, and that's what I like about it.
That's it. It seems primitive.
It's primitive.
But when it comes to raising kids, though, because we have to really pay attention. Because in school, and I mentioned this to you before, and so Brad comes in from school, and this is in the 90s, okay? So this has been going on a long time, where the teacher wanted him to have a calculator for math class, and I said, no, that's cheating. You're just saying that because you want a calculator. And he said, no, here's the note. And then I'm thinking his girlfriend wrote the note. So I said, okay, I'm going to call your teacher. And I called her, and she said, yes, he has to have a calculator for class. Well, so that's the difference between when I went to school and then when he went to school, because when I went to school, that was considered cheating.
Yeah.
You would get expelled from school if you brought a calculator to class. And she said, no, they have to. And I said, but they're not thinking with their brain. And so we started seeing this. That's why now when you go to some fast food restaurants, I don't pay with cash anymore. I'm tired of making fun of the people at the drive-thru. So your order comes to, say, $10.25. You give them a $20.25. It blows their mind. It's like, I can't give you cash back for that. And you're like, give me $10. Just give me $10.
I can't wait to see what we do now that we're decommissioning the penny. We're not going to have pennies anymore. So what are we like? How that's going to be very interesting. Do we save our pennies now? Are they going to actually become valuable now that there's scarcity? I don't know.
It could be, but now the penny is not really worth that much itself because it's not really made of copper anymore.
Not anymore. Yep.
I mean, it just takes adjusting on all sides, and
it may be easier because you're dealing with round numbers, you know.
Yeah, that's going to change everything.
5.
Okay, I can see this. This is going to change. Okay, so I own a dress shop. Okay, and then I put, instead of calling it $20 for a blouse, I can't say $19.99 anymore. To make it sound cheaper, I'll have to say $19.95.
Yeah, that's the year the Braves won the World Series.
It's going to change everything.
It will. It will making change will be easier.
How many people actually use cash anyway?
I rarely use cash. The only time I use cash is, every now and then I have to run a lunch and I get change, and I always put extra bills in so that if we run out of change, I have extra. And then when the luncheon's over and I account for all the cash, whatever, I take the extra cash that I have and I just, use that extra cash. But that's it.
Comes in handy if you go to yard sales, though.
Well, it does. When I go up to the Delta, if I go to Atlanta Airport or sometimes Reagan National in DC, they're the guys that stand out there on the curb, and you can check your bags there rather than going inside and doing it. And I'll sometimes go to them, but the first thing I ask them is, you have Venmo? And they all say, yeah, here's my Venmo. And I just Venmo them a tip. And that's just easier than even giving cash. I don't always carry cash. I mean, I rarely carry cash, actually. The only time I carry cash is, as I say, when I run those luncheons, but also every now and then I'll remember before a trip to just take some extra cash in case I need to tip somebody for taking my bag upstairs or whatever. Usually I do that stuff by myself, but not always.
Well, what if something temporarily happens to the grid?
Yeah, I don't. Then nobody will know what to do.
I'll have all of my pennies. I'll be able to buy things. I'll be able to buy things pennies on the dollar.
I'll be rubbing sticks together. That's how fireworks. Oh no! So, the grid won't affect my lighter, so I think my grill lighter will be. It won't
affect me at all because I'm living on a farm here, raising my own food. But now I do get cold in the wintertime. I would like to have heat, so yes. I'm rubbing the sticks together. Whatever we need to do to make a fire. I guess I need to brush up on those skills, make sure I know how to do it. When you think about it, we're going to have to go. But when you think about it, if we lost the grid for 1 month, that could be the best thing that ever happened to us because we would have to talk to each other.
Oh, that's a good point. Could be the worst.
Have to talk to each other. Our neighbors are pretty friendly around here, though. We've all met each other. We're going to have to call it a day. Alan, thank you so much for being on the show with me. It's always a pleasure. It's always so much fun. And hang around so I got to get you set up for next month as well. So thank you guys so much for watching the show. Continue sending emails. I appreciate it. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. See you next time. Bye-bye.